Girl, you don't know how to do nothing but lie. You don't owe these people anything. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Daisha's Digest. Today's episode is called Mean with Money, and we will be diving into some stories about family members who do not want to open up their pockets for their loved ones. But why? Before we get into today's episode, I just want to thank you guys so much for the support so far on this brand new channel. I'm at like 120 subscribers at this point, which may not seem like a lot to you, but it means the world to me. So if you are not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe and I'll go into the stories. Am I the a-hole for not telling my girlfriend about my savings? I, 20 male, have been working since I was 14. I grew up very poor and watched my dad work 2 jobs to make ends meet. My first job was Publix, working 15 to 20, maybe 25 hours a week. But my dad made sure I saved all my money unless I wanted a new video game or a pair of shoes, but he still wouldn't let me splurge like I wanted. He paid for all my food and phone bill until he passed away when I was 16. I started working at a restaurant and the manager gave me a lot of hours. I'd clock in at 9 a.m. as a prep cook and then clock in at 4 p.m. as a busser. I wouldn't clock out until like 11 to 12 p.m. I was making at least $800 a week during the summer as a 16-year-old. It was great. I saved up about $3,000 that whole summer. Then when I'd leave school, I'd clock in from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. and work the rest of my shift under the table. I saved up at least $5,000 through the whole school year. I was always very frugal with my money and never cared for the nicer clothes. I still dress nice, but no desire to wear designer clothes. Well, now that I work full-time for the past 2 to 3 years, I have roughly $30,000 more or less. I started dating my girlfriend 2 years ago, and I always say I'm broke when I have less than $500 in my checking account, which is smart. I'm not necessarily saving up for anything because I live with my sister, and she doesn't make me pay any bills except for the light bill, my phone plan, and the stuff that I want. My girlfriend doesn't have as good money management as I do. Whenever she gets sad, she likes to retail therapy. I've never understood why, but her parents spoiled her growing up, so I figure that plays a part, but oh well, everyone has their own ways of dealing with sadness, and that's hers. Well, she was asking if I could send her like $200 to $300 for something, wouldn't disclose what, and I told her to send it to her through my bank. I didn't think she'd go through my whole bank app and click on my savings, but she saw I had $2,500 in my checking and went to my savings. She came to me and showed me my phone and was like, "We're rich. You must have been selling drugs or something, haha." I did find it funny, but I tried to tell her easy that we're not spending that. And she then thought about it and looked at the transactions over the years and added it all up and was like, "You never mentioned anything about this account." I said, "Because that money isn't wealth. It's a savings in case anything bad happens." Now, I will say I'm not stingy with my money. I just don't spend money on things I don't need. I still take my girlfriend out to eat every week and buy her flowers. I make sure she feels her worth, which is more than that money I have saved. We just look at money differently. If anything were to ever happen to her, I'd obviously care for her and take money out of the account for her. But she started talking about she doesn't need to work if I have that type of money. I explained that money isn't wealth once again, and $30,000 can be gone in the blink of an eye. Facts. She wasn't having it. I told her we can start a savings account together that'll strictly be for trips, activities, etc. She said I already have the money for that. I responded, "This is why I didn't mention the money to you, because you'd want to spend it all in the matter of a month." She broke down crying, saying I didn't trust her and I don't love her. I plan on marrying this woman and love her to death, but I don't want to jeopardize something I worked years on to save and be comfortable financially. I don't use credit cards or anything yet, and I am in no debt. I do see where she's coming from, and I could see where I'm in the wrong by not disclosing this with her, but I knew I'd have to start from ground zero again. Edit. People commenting saying I should offer rent to my sister because of the money I have saved up. I agree, but she won't let me pay rent. Her and her husband are well off due to him being a VP at a welding company with government contracts, and my sister is retired military, working as a chairwoman of her charity. They don't want me to pay rent and focus on my future. Also, to the comments questioning why I have only $30,000 saved up. I pay for most of my big purchases outright as I don't like acquiring debt. Update. On a different note, I will be taking my girlfriend out to eat on Saturday per her request, as she wants to talk about everything that transpired, so we'll update most likely on Sunday or Monday. Thank you everyone for your advice. It's greatly appreciated, and I will be taking it all into consideration. Before I go into his update that he has on the post, a few things stuck out to me. For one, I would not have just completely handed over my bank account to someone. I don't know, that just feels really risky. For two, he has the exact right idea. When you have a savings or like an emergency fund, you don't think about having access to that money, or you shouldn't, unless you're using it for what it's actually intended. So when he says, oh, I'm broke, when his account gets down to 500, technically, yeah, he is, because he wants to make sure that he's spending within his means, and that's what he has decided for himself is within his means. So I try to treat my money like that as well. And then another thing that stuck out to me, first of all, he's only 20 years old and he's already thinking that he's gonna marry this girl, bless his heart. But I don't know, maybe they will, maybe it'll work out, but I haven't seen too many success stories with people in very young relationships like that, because many things change over the years. But he's already said that she's not good with money, and just from a equally yoked standpoint and a long-term relationship standpoint, I don't see that as being a good idea for him to be in a long-term partnership legally with someone who's not good with money, if he is good with money, because it's just not going to end well. If she's willing to take money management classes or finance courses to learn about how to handle money and deal with money, that's one thing. But if she's not willing to learn about it, then I wouldn't marry her. Because he has a great point. $30,000 sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but it can be gone in a flash, especially depending on how much he doesn't have any expenses, but like that money can be gone very quickly. So he has the right idea. I'm proud of him for being able to make fiscally wise decisions. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm gonna go ahead and read his update. Another update. Good morning to all you lovely gents and ladies. I'm up early this morning because it was a stressful night and I couldn't get comfortable to save my life. My girlfriend and I decided that we're going to take a break. Yes, I was waiting for that. I was trying to not let the outside influences influence me, but I noticed she ordered a lot more food than she usually does and didn't even take a bite of some of it. Her excuse was, "You're fine, it was only $150 for both of us." That was my eye-opener. So I paid with a generous tip, but I saw a lot of comments saying she already spent that money in her head, or she will drain it slowly but surely until it's all gone. I hate that money was the reason for us breaking up, but a lot of people were saying facts that I couldn't ignore. Her whole attitude changed with me and felt like she was Elon Musk's wife. I told her at the table after we ate, "I still love you and will always care about you, but you need to grow up a little bit before we get back together." She started crying and left. I then received messages from her mother asking if I'm seeing somebody else because this is out of the blue for someone like me. I don't know if she's saying I shouldn't be able to leave her daughter rather than her daughter is supposed to leave me, but I didn't even respond back. I don't care for the drama nor for the arguing, which is happening with my girlfriend. Sorry, ex-girlfriend. I was told I'm just like my dad, a bum, a sorry loser, etc. I could keep going. I'm none of those things. I might be a little bit untrusting, but I haven't even really responded to my ex with anything but, "Yes, ma'am," or "You're right." I don't feel like I'm the bad guy because I'm not fighting for a relationship that is now seen as dollar signs. But to everyone who said I was the a-hole, I see where you're coming from, and I'll learn to be more transparent about not being broke rather than not spending that money. I just think it's rude to say I have the money, I just don't want to spend it. I'll think of ways to say that without saying it. Now, to everyone who said I should give my sister rent money, I swear I'm not selfish and just being greedy with my money. Whenever her kids and I go to Walmart, I tend to always get them a toy. Last week, I bought them a Lego set. Probably not a good idea because they're 1 and 3 years old, but hey, as long as they're having fun and don't swallow them, we're good. But I buy everyone things, even if they're not the most expensive. They're all sentimental. I just bought my brother-in-law and I matching Team USA basketball jerseys because we're both hyped for the Olympics. They just don't want me to pay rent, and I'm not going to argue with them about that, but I still buy them stuff as well to make up for that. To everyone who said leave her, y'all were right. I hate to say it, but money is all some can see when they have seen it. She was blinded by a make-believe life of luxury I don't have to offer. I'm not saying she's a gold digger or a bad person, just immature and young. I'm also going to take the advice of putting it in a different account I can earn interest on to keep up with inflation. I thank everyone for their advice and prayers. It was much needed, and I hope to everyone who has a nice penny saved up to keep grinding and scratching your way to the top. I hope to see y'all there one day. All right, that sounds like a good update to me. I know people are saying like, oh, you should pay your sister rent, but hey, if the sister is not asking for rent and obviously she understands OP's position, he's still really young, 20 years old, and if she has the opportunity to help out her brother and help him build a better life for himself, then shoot, I don't see why not. But I am glad that he broke up with that girl because she was starting to get sprinkle vibes. She was like, oh, 30K, oh, okay. We balling. But as he said, she's young. She doesn't realize 30K is not, in this economy, it's good, but like it's not going to take you far. I am glad that people gave him the advice to put it in a high yield savings account. Yeah, I don't think it's useful to read any comments on this. I'll link it in the description if you guys want to, but I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next story. Also, the last story has 4 updates, so I don't want to make this video too long, so let's go to the next one. Am I the a-hole for being selfish when it comes to my divorce settlement, not helping family members out? I, 42 female, just got divorced and getting a settlement from my ex buying me out of the house I owned with him while we were married. I have helped out my mom, 62 female, and my sister, 41 female. They have gone through so many family members with money, not paid a dime back to any of them. After I left my husband, I moved back in with my mom. Thank God she had taken me in because I would have been homeless. I helped my mom with the bills, rent, and groceries for the house. Plus, I was not getting any spousal support and taking care of my kids as well. I am working full-time, taking care of my kids, see them every other weekend and their needs as well. Everything was fine until my sister and her boyfriend, 44 male, move in around December 2023. It was supposed to be temporary. She was not paying for rent or utilities, just for groceries. My sister, 41 female, owes me almost $5,000 for breaking her lease because I did not want to have an eviction on my credit. I have asked her to pay me back, and she has not paid me a single dime. My mom, 62 female, owes me almost $10,000 regarding past bills that I paid for. My mom has always expected a lot more from me, being older than my sister and my brother, 38 male. I feel like my mom has always helped my sister out when she has had issues and bailed her out of trouble. Well, January 2024 comes along and I applied for a management job in my company, working back in the office in a different city. I did give my mom plenty of notice that I was going to move out if I got the job promotion. I got the job promotion, and when I was about to move out, I gave my mom the rent that I was paying just for the days I stayed in the house. Once I moved out, my sister had the audacity to ask me if I was going to pay the utilities after I had moved out from my mom's house. I said no because I paid what I had to. Well, after that, I had a conversation with my mom regarding about money, and she said I did not have to worry about it. It was my sister's doing. I am going through the settlement process, and if they ask for any money, the answer is no. Am I the a-hole? Update: I'm going through the settlement process with my attorney this weekend. I moved to another city for my new job, getting settled in nicely. I do see my children and talk to them daily. I do talk to my mom, small talk only, and that is it. As for my sister, I have not spoke to her because she does not have accountability for anything, not dealing with people like that. No wonder why my brother moved away. Before I read some of the comments, I definitely will say not the a-hole. First of all, your sister is 41 years old. She's got to get it together. There's no way. And I don't know, there's a lot of details that I'm not aware of, but that's wild. And then the fact that it sounds like you co-signed on an apartment for her, I would never do that. I would never, ever, 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 ever co-sign or sign as a guarantor on anything for anyone. That is putting your credit and your money at risk. That was a little bit of a mistake on your part, but hey, it's done. At this point, honestly, I might call all the money a wash. Like the $5,000 from the sister, the $10,000 from the mom. It doesn't really sound like you're gonna get that back. And I know it is a lot of money, but I honestly just might call it a wash and just never loan them any money again. I always try to live by the philosophy to never loan people money that you'll need back. So maybe in the future, like the only time you give them any money is if you are just not expecting to get it back at all. Otherwise, don't give them anything else because they obviously will not give it back. But I'm glad that you were able to get the new job. Congrats on the promotion and congrats on the move to the new city. Let me just read a couple of the comments and then we'll go to the long story for today. Fit_measurement_1871. Don't discuss your settlement with them. It's none of their business and you shouldn't even let them know you got anything. Not the a-hole. She said, I haven't told them anything about the amount, etc. Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't tell them I'm getting anything. I just would leave it out of conversation entirely. And Trump has this username. Trump has a micro member. It's not settlement. It's money that was earned while you were married, and this is your legal half. It's your retirement money. For the love of God, quit giving them money. And she said, well, the bank is closed. I heard that. Someone said, next time anyone asks you for money, tell them that once they pay you back everything you are owed by them, you can consider another loan. Not until they are paid back in full, she said. Exactly. And heart recording 5241, stop helping them. You got your kids to think about, and they don't care to take money from them. She said, yes, I am thinking about myself and my kids for once. I am tired of being taken advantage of. All right, so that's the end of that story. We are at the last story for today, but like I said, there are 3 updates to this post, so let's get into it. Am I the a-hole for not offering to pay for my husband and his kids, leading him to spend all his savings? For a while now, my husband John has been getting more and more angry over little things and generally moody and distant. I had finally had enough and approached him about separation. This conversation led to a big blowout and him revealing the state of his finances. My husband and I have always kept our finances separate. Also, although we call each other husband and wife and had a wedding, we are not actually legally married. This was primarily for inheritance purposes because we each have older children from previous relationships. Anyway, John revealed that he had basically no savings left, that all the money he had saved for retirement and for his kids' schooling was gone. Furthermore, he said it was all my fault since he used all his savings up to try and keep up with my lifestyle. There was never anything crazy in terms of bills or anything like that, and we always split it equally. The house we live in, I own outright as well, so there wasn't a mortgage payment. However, I have always liked to travel a lot on fairly extravagant vacations. I would invite John or John and his children to join on trips, but never made them feel like they had to come. That said, he was expected to pay for himself and for his kids, except for recently, he accepted every invitation. I would also give my kids things he considered extravagant, but I considered normal. So he felt like he had to give similar things to his own kids. John said with all the spending to keep up, his savings dwindled very fast. Let me get through this because I have some things to say. I expressed that I couldn't understand how or why he would spend all he had when he knew he couldn't afford it. He said it was like keeping up with the Joneses, only worse because it was at home, so he couldn't block it out. John thinks since I knew his job, I should have had a basic understanding of his finances and realizes this wasn't a lifestyle he could maintain. That the kind thing... Sorry. This is so ridiculous. That the kind thing would have been to offer to pay for the trips and other things instead of dangle them in front of his and his kids' faces. Looking back, I probably could have realized that the spending didn't... I'm sorry. You are a grown man. Oh, hold on. Okay. Looking back, I probably could have realized that the spending didn't make sense for his salary, but I wasn't thinking about it. I don't think it was my responsibility to keep his finances in mind here. We had agreed. I don't know why this is so funny. We had agreed from the beginning to keep our finances separate. So to me, that means paying for things separately. Edit, we do not live in a state with common law marriage. Okay, my immediate judgment is not the a-hole. I know some people might be like, oh, well, why do y'all have separate bank accounts if y'all are married, XYZ? I, for one, have no issues with separate bank accounts. If I were to ever get married or be in some situation like this, like the idea of having like a joint bank account that both people contribute to, and that's what like all the household expenses and everything come out of. And then everything else is, everything else. And it's more so a thing where like, say I make 70% and you make 30% as far as like relation to salaries, then I would probably put in 70% more and you can put in 30. Like you put in the percentage of the money that you make. Obviously this would have to be in a trusting type of relationship because you wouldn't want someone to just not try and elevate in their career because they don't want to pay more bills or some, weird situation like that. But I see no issue. If you can't go on the trips, don't go on the trip. No one is forcing you. If she likes to go on extravagant trips, she shouldn't miss out on experiences in her life just because you can't go. If you can't go, then, maybe she could make it a trip with her girls and go with her girls. Or maybe you could try and level up or get a side hustle. I don't know, do something to where you can afford to go. I don't know. I personally don't see that she did anything wrong here. And I guess it depends. Did she say how old the kids were? She said they each have older children. Yeah, so assuming that she also is inviting her children on these trips, because why would she invite her children, not his? Then they're both probably having to pay around the same amount. So I feel like that's fair. Like it would be one thing if like he was having to pay extra and maybe she was only paying for herself. I don't know. Maybe in that case, I might say she could have paid a little, but in that point, the kids don't have to go on the trip. It's an optional thing. So even still, I say she's not the a-hole, and I say he's trying to blame her for his bad choices because nobody made you pay for those trips. Nobody made you spend outside of your means. You didn't speak up and say anything. You just wanted her to know, oh, he only makes XYZ. Maybe he can't afford this. She probably thought you was making it work. You was doing something to make it work. I say she's not the a-hole. So let me see what the comments say. First comment said, everyone sucks here. This wasn't a marriage. This was roommates with benefits. I mean, if you want to call it that, then hey, but I still don't think she did anything wrong. Sparkling Sour said, why did I have to scroll so far to find this? BT Gold said, because Reddit. Onion Ringlets 3 said, because it's not the best thought on here. Winston Babber, she seems like a terrible person, splitting the bills equally when they make more money. These vacations that she invites her husband and stepkids on as an afterthought. I can't believe people are saying not the a-hole. Onion Ringlets 3 said he lived rent-free and still decided to liquidate his children's future before speaking up. That's why she's not the a-hole. I totally forgot about that point. She owned the house outright, so they didn't even have to pay a mortgage. So really, the bulk of their bills was insurances, utilities, and maybe if they had a car payment. So literally, the bulk of his salary was going towards these extravagant trips and trying to keep up with these nice gifts that she would be giving her kids. I don't feel sorry for him at all, because if there was ever an issue, you should have spoke up and said something. Or these trips are optional. You don't have to have your kids go on these extravagant trips and pay for them to go on these trips. If you can't do it, you can't do it, and that's okay. Maybe you guys can do a family trip that's, somewhere else. Maybe you could plan it with her somewhere else, somewhere within your means. And then she can go by herself on her extravagant trip that she really wants to go on. But she shouldn't have to miss out on things because you can't afford it. This is the relationship that you guys chose to have. Y'all chose to be 50-50, split everything. And now that you can't split everything, you trying to blame it on her because you dipped into your kid's future so you could go on a trip and give nice gifts. That's not her fault. So, sweetest tea too. One, if they keep their expenses separate and he's living in her house rent-free, then I think it's fair that a 50-50 split on life necessities is completely fair, especially since his kids live with their mom primarily. I didn't even catch that part. Like, why should she pay for his expenses? That's what separate finances means. I didn't even catch that part. There must be something else going on here, because there's no way that you're that much behind to where you're dipping into your retirement and your children's college funds just to go on extravagant trips. Like, it's not adding up, especially when you have no mortgage or rent to pay. So she said, 2, vacations and extravagant gifts are really what he's complaining about here. He did not discuss his financial difficulties with her. How could she know? If it was so much of an issue, how come he didn't take initiative to plan the vacations? Make it so that it's within a budget. Discuss gifts for the kids. If he doesn't get input in things he chooses to leave solely up to her, that's on him. Exactly. Thank you. It seems that most of the people in the comment section are kind of leaning towards it's his fault, and there's a few outliers saying everyone is at fault and that OP is also the a-hole. I do not agree with that sentiment, but I'll go to the second update. Update, am I the a-hole for not offering to pay for my husband and his kids, leading him to spend all his savings? After reading all the comments on my first post, I realized I needed more time to think about things. I also thought with the situation how it was, it would be best that we spend the holidays apart to avoid any controversy. He wasn't a fan of the idea, but I eventually got him to agree to go. Last week, things settled down, so we met up to have a more detailed discussion about the state of his finances. A few more things were revealed. I found out that he had lost his job earlier this year and didn't tell me. What? Sir! He got a new job in October, but he went over 4 months without one while pretending he still had one. During that time, he only got a small amount of money from unemployment, so he started putting everything on his credit cards. His new job doesn't pay as much as his old one, so he hasn't been able to pay more than the minimum towards his debts, which are now substantial. I feel like if he had just brought up all these issues earlier, this could have been avoided, or we could have worked something out. Now I really just feel like I can't trust him. I can't trust him with money, and I can't trust him not to hide things from me. I just can't see going back and trying to make things work with him at this point. Since he doesn't have a place to take all their things, I've agreed to store their stuff in my garage until he gets more settled, which means I won't be able to make as clean of a break as I would like right now, but for the most part, it's over. This is even worse than what any little bit of sympathy I may have had for him, there's absolutely none. Because not only are you dipping into your kids' future and your future, your retirement and your kids' college funds. But you are without a job for 4 entire months and you say nothing to your wife, your so-called wife? On top of that, you're still trying to keep up. You're still trying to keep up with the Joneses, putting things on your credit card, maxing out your credit cards, not even able to pay the minimum, barely able to pay the minimum balance. I'm not understanding the thought process here. Like, why do that? Why not just say something? Like, it's so much easier just to say something. This is your wife. Like, this is the person who you trusted to essentially spend the rest of your life with the second time because you divorced. But, like, you would think that she would be understanding if you just said something. Also, I wouldn't feel comfortable keeping his stuff in my house. I would pay for him to have a storage because he doesn't need any reason to come back around to my house. Let me go ahead and go to the second update. Now, it's gonna say final update, but she does have a third update after this. Second update, am I the a-hole for not offering to pay for my husband and his kids, leading him to spend all his savings? For anyone who hasn't read my previous posts, there are 2 of them exposing what happened under my username. I like the suggestion I was given when last posted of paying for a storage unit for their things for a few months. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who was thinking that. My ex, however, did not agree to it. He said it would make things too difficult because the closest storage location was too far out of the way. It definitely felt like he was still trying to cling to things. Since I couldn't get a storage unit in his name without his approval, I talked to a friend who is a lawyer about the situation. He helped me write up a notice that told him that he had 30 days notice to get their things or they would be disposed of. After 30 days notice was up, he still had only picked up a few things. I ended up calling his ex and asked her if she or their kids wanted anything before I got rid of it all. Well, they had been left in the complete dark about our relationship being over. My ex had been lying to them, saying I was sick and then he was sick with COVID, and that's why they hadn't been able to come over. That tracks. He don't know how to do nothing but lie. I was not surprised at all at this point. I figured she didn't know about the rest of it either and told her. She is livid, especially about the money for their kids' education since it was part of their divorce agreement. Anyway, the kids all got what they wanted, and I had a charity come and pick up the rest. It feels a lot better now that there is a completely clean break. Yes, I have gotten the locks changed and blocked his number. Since there is no reason for me to have contact with him anymore, this is probably the last time I'll be posting. I think in the future, I will probably look for more transparency when it comes to financials in any serious future relationships. With how much he was lying, I can only imagine what else he may have been lying about. Had I known more, I don't think he would have been able to hide things. I am just grateful and relieved that I was able to protect myself and my children. Yeah, she really dodged a bullet on not legally marrying this guy. Like, luckily her state doesn't have common law or anything like that, and they weren't actually legally married, because his behavior is very concerning. The fact that he can just lie about large things like this, I'm glad she's able to make a clean break. But let me go to the last update. Update 3. Am I the a-hole for not offering to pay for my husband and his kids, leading him to spend all his savings? I know I said that would be my last update. It's not really necessary for me to make another, but now I'm kind of using this as a form of journaling, which I found cathartic. The previous posts are all under my username. I only had one run-in with my ex since the last incident. He came to my house. I only spoke to him through the camera. He asked about getting his things. I told him that I had already got rid of everything, as I had warned him, but that his kids had taken some things. I also told him he needed to leave and to not come back. Surprisingly, he didn't make a big fuss about it. He just said okay and that he was sorry for bothering me before he left. but he did look very tired, so maybe that's why. I have not seen him since, and apparently his ex and his kids haven't heard from him in all this time either. This update had more to do with them than my ex actually. His ex contacted me to ask about him. She wanted to know if I had heard from him or had his new contact information. His phone is apparently no longer in service. Yeah, because he ain't got no money. He can't keep a phone in service. I told her how I hadn't had any contact with him since the aforementioned visit. She also asked if she and I could meet up for coffee and talk. I declined because honestly, I couldn't think of a reason for us to meet up, though I did offer to pass on any info about him if I heard anything. She apparently wanted to talk to me about helping her pay for her eldest child, who is now a senior in high school, education next year. She also subtly implied there was some fault on my part for their lack of funds. I rather cowardly told her I would think about it and ended the call. To be honest, I feel like it's an unfair position she's putting me in. The main reason being that her children don't seem to care for me. We got along all right while I was with their dad. However, since I ended things with him, it has been complete silence from them. I did try to reach out to them to see if they were okay. They never responded. Even when they came over to get their things, they ignored me and my youngest. However, I did get a message after the call with their mom about how she missed me. The timing, though, just makes it seem sort of like manipulation to get money out of me. Girl, you don't owe them anything. The reason why her kids don't have money for their college is because of their father and only their father. No one made him spend all his money. No one made him live above his means. No one made him spend money even though he didn't have it while he was unemployed. No one made him lie about being unemployed. No one made him go on all of these extravagant trips, even though he didn't have the money to go on these extravagant trips. It was all him. You don't owe them anything, really. I mean, it's unfortunate, and if you just like to be nice and send a gift out of the kindness of your heart, then go for it. But like, you don't owe these people anything. Somebody said, not the a-hole, I wouldn't give them a penny. I don't know what the laws look like in your country, but I know that if you start, sometimes it can become your responsibility because you set a precedent. Keep staying away from that circus. Edit to add, your ex-husband's bad financial planning is not your fault. Don't let her guilt you into that nonsense. Not the a-hole, she's aware that you felt guilty about exposing your ex and is trying to use it. The only people that were responsible for saving for their kids was him and her. And if he blew his money, then my question is, what happened to her savings for her kid? I think in this situation, the kid's college savings was part of the divorce agreement, so maybe that's why the ex doesn't have anything. Plus, the kids live with her full time, so she probably on a daily basis spends more money on the kids, so that's probably why she doesn't have it. And they drafted a response for OP. I've had time to think about it, and no, I will not be contributing to X education. It's not my responsibility. It's also not my fault that X made poor financial choices. This has been a traumatic experience for me, and at this point, I'd like to put this all behind me, and I'd rather we do not remain in contact. I don't actually believe the ex had a savings set aside for his kids' college. I doubt he was that responsible, and so this idea that he spent kids' money keeping up with OP is just crazy. The parents are responsible for the children's education expenses, and as their former stepmom, your responsibility ended with that marriage. You've done all you could and need to do. Walk away and block them. The ex-wife is just as bad as the ex-husband. Users. Edited to add, the message after the mom's call was definitely deliberate. All right, that is the end of the stories today. Comment below, let me know what you guys think of any of the stories that I've read today. Again, make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed, and consider giving this video a like if you liked today's stories. I will see you in the next one.